And yes, we're going to talk about the Kamloops ongoing, ever ongoing, years now, residential school burials. So, last week, Joseph Quinnell wrote a column in the Western Standard, and he was asking folks to stop referring to the alleged burial of children at the Kamloops residential school site as a hoax. And I've got nothing but respect for Joseph. He's been an excellent voice on Indigenous policies in Canada, and I don't doubt he's going to continue to be. In this case, though, I guess like the old saying goes, with all due respect, I can't disagree more strongly with him. Perpetuating a hoax is far more damaging to Indigenous Canadians and the rest of us than appearing insensitive and calling it as it is. Canada was turned upside down by the revelation that as many as 215 children had been killed and secretly buried in apple orchard at the site of the Kamloops residential school. Flags were put at half-mast for nearly 6 months. Churches were burned to the ground, and apologies flew along with checks. Now, we're over 3 years later, and nothing has been done to verify the claims. The Kamloops band was given nearly $8 million tax dollars to follow up on the issue, yet they appear to have done little to nothing with it. They won't disclose where the money went, and the myth of the hundreds of graves at the site continues, along with the associated pain and social damage caused by people who really believe hundreds of children were murdered and buried at that site. Look, the RCMP clearly don't believe any bodies are on the site. While there's been no end to the misinformation and excuses made as to why there hasn't been any excavations, the reality is the RCMP has full authority to dig if they really believe it's a crime scene. The allegations made that children were forced to bury their compatriots in the orchard as recently as the 1960s means theoretically the perpetrators could still be out there if indeed these incidents really happen. The site isn't a separate nation, and the band doesn't have the ability to stop a murder investigation. If that was the case, Native reserves could start quite the cottage industry as a site for murderers to bury their victims with the knowledge that the investigation would stop there. The reason the RCMP won't follow up is that there's no evidence that a crime took place. They don't think there's any bodies there. Some folks are claiming the burials are sacred and must not be disturbed. To be blunt, that's a load of crap. Those same folks are insisting that tens of millions of dollars should be spent in Winnipeg to try and locate the bodies of a couple of murdered Indigenous women suspected to be buried in a landfill there. So, is it sacred to recover these remains and return them to the family, or is it sacred to leave them in the spot? It's whatever's convenient for these activists, and it's getting tiresome. The issue of returning the remains to the families causes a conundrum to the folks perpetuating the hoax as well. Not only have there been no bodies found, there's no children reported missing at the school. While hundreds of children allegedly were buried in the orchard, apparently every one of them was an orphan. No parents, no siblings or cousins have reported kids missing. Even if a body was found, who would we return it to? More effort has been made to deter the investigation of these alleged burials than has been made to get to the truth. And these are the hallmarks of a hoax. Instead of proving people who question the narrative wrong through forensic investigation of the supposed burial sites, efforts have been made to illegalize the questions. People are asking for the truth, who are asking for the truth, are being labeled as deniers, and the government's been considering illegalizing denialism. Nobody's denying that residential schools existed, and most people agree the schools were not pleasant places. It's not unreasonable, though, to ask for evidence when the claim is made that hundreds of children were secretly killed and buried. However, finding the truth at the Kamloops residential school, it wouldn't be that expensive or complicated. It would take nothing more than a day or two with some people using shovels. If indeed bodies were found, then work could begin to find out who they are and to hold people responsible and to return the remains, of course, to where they can be found. Let's face it, though, and let's say it out loud. The reason the Kamloops band won't dig is they know there aren't any bodies there. The gravy train would dry up. While no children disappeared at the site, $8 million tax dollars did. In this case, things may be moving beyond calling the affair a hoax and actually moving into fraud territory. I don't care if folks think it's insensitive to call the alleged Kamloops child burials a hoax. More people should be calling it a hoax. In fact, they should be shouting it from the rooftops until a real investigation happens. Canada's Indigenous population is socially challenged and angry enough as it is. Allowing myths of murdered children to continue is only fostering more division and making things worse for everybody. The truth needs to be exposed. If you don't like it, dig a hole and prove me wrong. Until then, I'm going to call it a hoax. And with every day that investigations are delayed, I'm more and more confident I'm correct.